I'm Ryan. This is my brother Daniel, and this is Rolls in the Family. We are here to talk about April, and specifically our top board gaming plays of April. April is kind of a weird month in our family, at least for my family. We have so many birthdays in April. My wife's birthday is in April. Both our parents are in April. Both my in-laws are in April.
My bank account took a hit. I'll just say that.
Yeah, so it can be a little crazy. A lot of family get-togethers and whatnot. I kind of had, I would say, a lighter month of gaming. I actually had a little bit more trouble figuring out what my top three were here.
Yeah, no, I'm in a similar boat actually. This is a month of less of, I think, as you'll see in these games, my favorite games, but games that hit the situation really well. So that'll be fun to get into.
Nice. Yeah, we'd love to hear what you've been playing. If you want to drop down in the comments your absolute standout play of April and why it was the cream of the crop. We will include links to all of our games down below in the description. But without further ado, Daniel, let's jump to your number 3.
Thank you, Ryan. So my number 3, we were talking earlier, one of the things that I'm pretty excited about is that, at our church, we're starting to do these kind of monthly board game socials, getting kind of a more of a community event type thing. So I think future videos like this will continue to maybe have plays from that. And so we've got a couple that actually came from our first one of those. And this is a game that would probably rarely make my top plays, like in terms of not one of my favorite games, but in terms of just it hit the situation perfectly. And it's a game that we actually just talked about in our last video about our lowest rated games that we own. And this is going to go
who knows the sequencing of videos coming out. It might be the last video.
It is the last video.
Okay.
And this is going to go to Sequoia.
Sequoia.
Yes. So when we got to this kind of board game social, we had a couple people come who I was getting to know them and really have not played much before, and kind of your life, Yahtzee, stuff like that. And we were also kind of in that weird point in a kind of social thing where a couple people have showed up, but you're still kind of like, I know more people are going to come, so I don't want to play like something longer. And then suddenly it's like, oh, we just started. So I was like, okay, we need just like simple, quick. And that is what Sequoia was. And so, they hadn't heard of any of these games. And so, I Breakout Sequoia, we had, I think it was 4 of us playing. And what I love about Sequoia, one, it just so fast to teach. It's one that I think also what you're doing feels, familiar in terms of, they've played like Yahtzee or something like that. So you're kind of rolling dice, in front of you, trying to create kind of 2 pairs. But I think what I love about Sequoia and why, I think in our last video, I talked about why it's my favorite of kind of that trilogy or whatever of Sequoia, Mountain Goats, and GPS is you've got kind of the simultaneous play. So there's a really good energy at the table of, everyone puts their pairs, and then we reveal, and then it's always fun to be like, oh my gosh, we went to the exact same 2, or it's got kind of a fun group element, and also I think just it's got some interesting decisions. The fact that every single one of the lily pads, or not lily pads, sorry, why did I say
they're
that?
like stumps,
Sequoia
right?
trees,
because it's Sequoia. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Every single one of those is randomized what the first and second place victory point value is. So it's always clearly some are more valuable than others, but people also know that some are more valuable than others. So oftentimes, the better players are the ones that spread out among the low value ones because everyone's fighting over the big ones.
Yeah.
But even that can be kind of interesting of like, when do I continue to double down on one that I'm competing with someone with, or at what point do I just, kind of abandon?
Well, and it is such a game of chicken because they might be thinking the same thing.
That too.
And you're like, if they're going to go out and go off on other ones, well, then you just need a little bit more to secure this big one.
Right.
But then, if you both think that.
Yeah, and even the way they handle the tiebreakers you kind of go into this tiebreaker round where you resolve all the ones that are resolved, but then everyone's left, you roll, and you can only add to ones that you're in a tiebreaker. I just find I don't know.
I really like that rule.
It's a fun way to finish. I find so. It was an example of just like that was perfect. And I ended up going and helping kind of start another game with a group that had just come. But they knew the rules now and they were able to keep playing themselves, which was perfect.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's awesome.
How many games can you walk away after, one play and suddenly now they can run it? Like that's, a pretty small group of games that could do that. So it was fantastic. And that's why it, despite being only plays in like 10, 15 minutes, snuck in here on my number 3 play of April.
Yeah, it's interesting because like most of my gaming is like scheduled game nights where I know exactly who's coming. I know exactly when everybody's getting there.
Yeah.
And it changes it a lot when you're in a dynamic where you have people, you don't necessarily know how many people are coming in. You don't know when people are going to show up. And in that kind of setting, the type of games that are really quick fillers are suddenly way more valuable because that's kind of that initial thing is like, we need to play something quick and fun that'll be, if somebody shows up, we're going to be done within 10 minutes and they can jump in on something.
Yeah. Right.
And we've already talked about how those types of games are good to have anyway, just because there's lots of situations that comes up. But yeah, I could see you wanting to, potentially even flesh out that part of your collection more, just because that's going to be
it's very true
setting that you're looking to, you're going to find yourself in that situation consistently.
Right. Yeah.
Cool. My number 3 is a new game. It was my first play of the game. It's been a long-awaited one I've wanted to try. Honestly, wasn't like the biggest standout game of it. I was playing with 2 players, which isn't, you ideally want to be playing with more. It was my wife and I, and we were definitely a little tired, like at the end of a day trying it. So that was maybe some of the stuff that was tugging. Like I said, I struggled to, some of the ones I ended up having the list have these like caveats. They have these caveats that maybe normally would have kept them out of my top plays, but just because it was a lighter month, it still makes it on.
When you only play 3 games, it's tricky.
Yeah. We don't tell the audience that. This is Foundations of Rome, and this is a big big box. Many would say that why does this casual simple game, why is it so overproduced? It's ridiculous.
I have said that.
Yeah, some might say which it is pretty a crazy production. It's this giant box. It takes up a whole cube in the calyx, and it has all these miniatures of all the buildings in Rome. I'm of the opinion that like, why does a game have to be complex for it to justify that kind of overproduction? Like obviously people that like these big dungeon crawlers, it's fun to have the minis. Well, there's probably people that prefer casual games that would find it fun to have a big production. So I don't have any qualms with it, like, it being a simpler game. But I was very interested to try this one because I was very interested in the gameplay of it. And I kind of liked the idea of having a bigger experience game to be able to pull out with just about anybody. Like the idea that it's kind of more of a gateway game. So it was very fun to try it. I feel like nails kind of this similar dynamic as Ticket to Ride, where Ticket to Ride, you have these 3 actions. Those are the only 3 actions you can take. And there's always this tension between those actions of like, if I take cards now, I might not be taking the thing on the map. And if I don't take destinations earlier, then I don't know as well how to optimize. And like, that's part of what makes Ticket to Ride so good. And Foundations of Rome is very similar, where you have 3 actions. One of them is claiming a deed card. So you're buying from the row. You'll buy like A4, and now you own A4 on the grid, on the board, so that you can later build on that. So that's a huge part of the game, is like getting the plots, and you want to get plots that are next to each other so you can build bigger buildings. So that's your first option. Your second option is to build a building where you have plots. And that's very easy to do because as long as you have the plots that match the shape, you don't have to pay anything else. I think thematically it's like whatever ruler is funding the building of Rome or whatever. And you want to do that because whenever you put out a building, it's uncovering basically like income on your board. So either money or points, or there's this like population thing where whenever we get to the end of an era, we compare population. Whoever has like the most is going to get the most points. So you want to do that. Your third option is that you can take income. And income is always you get to take 5 money plus whatever you currently have uncovered. So your like commercial buildings or whatever they call them. As you've built those, you're going to increase how much you make, which money is really important because that's how you buy deeds, because you can't buy those deeds and the deeds are more expensive the further up the row they are. And so I think that's just great. It's so simple. Like it's easy to explain, but it creates those same kind of tension moments that you get in a game like Ticket Triad. You know, there's things where it's like, ooh, I want that deed, but I'm low on money. Like if I take that, I'll have no money next time. And if there's a deed I really want, I like literally won't be able to get it. Like, is it better for me to take the money now so I'm flexible next turn? Oh, but I don't want to take money yet because I wanted to build this building first. Because if I build the building first, I'm going to get 3 more money when I take money. And so that's like better timing. But then I'm pushing it back 2 turns to getting a deed. And so I think it's very interesting how that all works. It also has a very interesting like overbuilding rule that like after you have buildings out there, you can remove them and use those spaces to build other buildings as long as all the ones that you removed are smaller than the one you're building. And so there's a lot of flexibility to kind of like, you know, I could have a building and get plots that are next to it and then later remove it and use the new plots to like build a bigger one there. And that also could shift the type of building. Like maybe my first building, I was trying to get money. And so it was giving me money. But then I later take that out and put out one of my, I forget the terminology, it's like civil buildings or something, that those all have like scoring conditions based on what's next to them. And so maybe as the game went on, it's like, ooh, there were a lot of a certain type of building that came around in this area. Well, I'm later going to overbuild and drop in this one that actually scores for those. Or actually vice versa. I actually did this to my wife. She built one of hers that scored. And so she's like scoring for my building. And then I switched it out for a different type of building. So I essentially took away the scoring adjacency.
That's strike one.
So yeah, there's some interesting interplay on the board. And that's part of why I'm so interested to try with more players. It technically can go up to 5 players because I have the 5-player expansion is.
Yeah.
And I think that would just be a very interesting dynamic. And then you throw in some of the modules, specifically the monuments module, which is the one that every game you have a random amount of these unique buildings that are common and like they all have a condition to build them. Like I forget some of the ones that we had that like you had to have a certain amount of a certain building first before you could choose to go build this building. But anybody can build those as long as they meet the conditions and have the plots to support it. And besides those just being very cool minis, because it's all of the like special buildings, like we had like the Colosseum in our, you know, thing of Rome, which just looked cool. They all also have like a little bit different, you know, ways that they work and the conditions for them to come out. So that's a nice little kind of variable thing in each game to mix those up.
Yeah.
So at this point, I feel like I don't know what my opinion is on Foundations of Rome because I don't think I've had like a representative game yet.
Not
but
regret.
I'm cautiously optimistic because it was quick to play, and this was with me kind of learning it on the fly. Like we hadn't played before, so it was a little bit. Now that I know it, like you can teach this so quickly. Just hand everybody a tray, open it up, you're ready to go.
Yeah.
So very much looking forward to trying this one again, because I tell you, if you're going to take up a full cube in my shelf, you're going to have to earn your space, spot here.
I was wondering both between size and also, I mean, it's not particularly cheap.
Like, oh no, it's extremely expensive.
Yeah. Well, I know. I was trying not to make you feel bad, Ryan. Is that all? Do you take that all into account when you're evaluating a game? You know, like,
it's
you know what I
interesting.
mean? Like,
for me,
does that need to deliver way more because of that, or is it like not really?
I mean, I think size plays a part because if it's taking up a ton of room on the shelf, I do have limited space.
You can always put up more.
Cost, yeah, it's true, but we're pretty good about getting rid of games.
Yeah,
cost is honestly for me less of an issue, just because I'm looking to find my favorite games, and we're the type of people that want a some people would think our collection is large, but in the larger board gaming community,
everything's relative.
We actually, everything's relative. We try to keep our collection trimmed down to the games we're really playing every year. And really enjoying. We want to play them over and over and over again. Like our favorite games, we want to play many, many, many times.
Right.
So for me, if Foundations of Rome is that game,
doesn't matter which
then
bid.
I'm totally willing to pay. I would rather pay to get it than get 8 other games that aren't that game.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and at this point, it's a sunk cost, right? Like I have the game, I paid the money, so now it's just like, is it worth keeping?
No different if you paid $30 or $300.
I guess the sunk cost is a little different when you can also resell it for similar of what. So there is this opportunity cost of, but it all boils down to I want the games in my collection that I think are the best games for me to have, and so. If it meets that, it's going to stick around. But if it doesn't, then it'll sadly go. Sadly, though, it'll it's always nice to sell it, to decide you don't like a game that you can actually sell for quite a bit, and it's that's a nice boost to the
able to get more games.
Funds.
There we go.
But yeah, I'm
help pay the mortgage.
One bummer with it is it's one that I think on our family vacation this year, it would be really fun to play this one and play it with you guys.
Ryan.
And we're road tripping, so I probably can bring it, but man, is it a big thing to be.
We don't need, like, we never play all of our games.
I know for the road trip it's not as much of an issue, but where it's annoying,
attach a trailer and throw it in there.
I'll tell you where it's annoying is where I'm going over to someone's house, like one of our parents.
If you walk up with that,
and I want to bring a bag of options. Well, this bigger than my bag of options. So, but at the same time, it is the type of game that could work in that situation. So that part's a little annoying. And for those that really don't want the big production, they are making Foundations of Metropolis version that's going to come out. That's like not big and crazy,
not cool.
But you miss a little bit of the fun of that production.
For sure.
But,
okay. Well, I look forward to
stick around on the channel to see where what happens with Foundations.
I look forward to playing that this summer. Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah, that's a good chance.
Okay, coming over now to my number 2. I was thinking this game has been in my collection for a long time, and I was actually wondering if my wife and I ranked our top games to play together. This would be probably top 3.
I actually talked about that with my wife as a video idea. It wouldn't be a bad video, like for us, because it's different than, I guess your wife's top games would be pretty close probably to your combined.
Yeah. Potentially,
my wife and mine
but to play together, it would be an interesting one. But this is going to go to Splendor. So we got, it was actually fun. We had a little, we do a kid swap. Is that what, or whatever, where we'll, permanently swap our kids. Where we have another
date nights.
Right. That's it. We have another couple where one weekend we'll watch their kids. I think we're watching them today, and the next weekend they'll watch our kids, and kind of gives us each time to go hang out and do something. So we decided to go to a Caribou Coffee and got some drinks and brought Splendor with us. And oh my gosh, we just love Splendor so much. It makes me wonder, should I try Splendor Duel?
I think it's
but
Duel,
also it's like, we love this, so I don't know. I feel like I do need to try it because it's, if we like it more, then that'd be awesome. But anyways, I think it was a really interesting Splendor game we had, because normally in Splendor, especially 2-player, you kind of each fall into your own different routes of like, okay, if I notice Kaylee's buying a bunch of the reds or whatever and is clearly going for that objective, I'm not going to also try to buy, I'm going to kind of try to go a different route. That hopefully I think is a faster way to get there. This was such a weird game because we were doing we were like buying the exact same colors. So it was just, so it was very obvious we are going for the same stuff here. And so it was just cutthroat of like reserving and block. I mean, it just is this like tense back and forth. And I always say with Splendor, it's honestly, when I'm playing, I almost have this like not bad, but like this fun, nervous exhilaration, because it's like it's a race. It's and every move is critically important. That's one thing I love about it. Like one bad turn can be the difference. Like every move you got to be like, man, how am I doing here? And you're in a 2-player game, especially, you are watching what your opponent is doing, because you got to reserve and block if if needed. And so we just find that is just such a fun, tense head-to-head game. And it's one we've had, for a long time now, and yet we just do not grow tired of it. And I guess there is a lot of variability in just that the way the cards come out and the nobles and whatnot, but there's not like individual, uniqueness, but just
it's not the type of variability that like makes the game feel really different from another game as much as just like the puzzle is shuffled, right? It's like a new version of the same puzzle.
For sure. And it's a puzzle that we just have absolutely loved. I probably like it. Yeah, I probably like it even more at 2-player than even more, because you get more players and suddenly now it moves into you almost don't even really pay that much attention in between your turns, because it's like, okay, 3 people are going. It's gonna lots of things are gonna get taken and changed, and like there's less like intentional blocking that's happening, partially just because it's too much to evaluate. Whereas that 2-player really is a just tight head-to-head, and we find that a lot of fun. So that one's been probably kind of our biggest, just, I don't know, comfort food go-to when it comes to 2-player games together. That's one that we've absolutely loved. And so to get to play it again, and it was a fantastic game of it that was neck and neck. I squeezed it out at the end, but partially because it was going to be whoever got to the nobles first, because we were going for the same ones. And so once I got it was kind of like, oh, I'm definitely not going to win because I'm not close to any of the others. So it was great. Yeah, that one, it's the only way that one would ever leave our collection is if I try Splendor Duel.
Well, and even then, would you you'd be giving up the 3 and 4-player options of it? Like,
right, that does some. Yeah, we do sometimes do that. So I will say the one thing I want to do with Splendor, I need to 3D
print the box set.
3D print. They have like people make these awesome just little 3D. I mean, the box is like the 3D printed things
to be
are like
the box
that big, because all it is just the cards, and then you fill in the cards nobles and fill in the gems. The box is way too big. It's also just horribly designed. I take it anywhere, and the chips are just. I got to put like a rubber
it's one
band
of the
around
poster childs for boxes that are too big. You always see somebody posting the Splendor box with all the components tucked into one corner of it.
Well, and the reality is, it's the type of game I want to be able to throw, in my backpack and take, like, because you can pull it out at a coffee shop. You can so it's honestly one that of games that I have, it's one that I'm really considering. I don't have a problem with a box being too big. I have a problem when the box is too big and the storage is horrible and everything falls out every time I put it vertically. So that's something I'm wanting to explore in the future here. So
nice.
My number 2, Splendor.
Yeah, Splendor Duel is actually somewhat high on my list of 2-player games I'm interested in trying. It's just I don't often prioritize my 2-player wish list because I don't have a ton of opportunities these days to play 2-player games like
Your
that.
Kids are getting up there.
But yeah, the day will come, and then it'll be all once my eldest son is old enough, but it's just gonna be all 2-player games.
They'll teach him War of the Ring, and it'll be just go from there.
Yep, we'll be doing that every other night, and yeah. Cool. My number 2 is another game that is new, but I've played it a few times now, but I don't think I've talked about it yet on here. This is one that I had eyed at various points over the last few years because I was like, ooh, that's a theme my wife would love. But then I always would go, but I think it's a little bit more complex. Like, my wife is not like wanting complex strategy games. That's not what she's looking for in games. We did her top 10 games a while back. Maybe we'll link that, but if you want to see what she enjoys playing. But so that always held me off because I was like, you don't want to, like, a theme will only go so far to get somebody to enjoy a game. But more recently, I looked into it a little bit again, and based on some of the ones that Mary had been enjoying more recently, I was like, you know what? It feels like it's at least worth a try because it could be like a really good option for like just a little bit heavier game for the two of us or with friends. So got it and very pleased with it so far. This have I even said this is Obsession. That was a lot of leading.
I was like, how long?
Sorry, I was ready to go the whole way. This is Obsession. I think the tagline's like Pride, Prejudice, and Intrigue in
doesn't
Victorian
she like
England or
Pride
something.
and Prejudice?
She likes Pride and Prejudice. She loves all the
theme
like
is a
period drama. It's very much set in that kind of Jane Austen setting.
Yeah, that going.
And so thematically, you're each taking control of a family, a house that has like fallen from grace. Your reputation is really low, and you're trying to work your way back in society and become, well esteemed again. It's a very unique game. And I think this is an example of when a game is so driven by theme, like the design is so clearly theme first, it just pushes the design in some directions that you wouldn't get to from like a mechanics first mindset. And so it's really interesting because every round on your turn, you have like your estate in front of you, which you all start with like the same 5 tiles that are in your estate. And then you have like your servants that are in this like box on your board that they're ready. And on your turn, you're always going to put on some kind of an event. So you're going to pick one of the tiles in your estate. And so I might be like, I'm going to do afternoon tea, at this thing. And you move that up, and that's going to say, this is who needs to staff this event. So it might need like my maid to be available to, do this event. But then you have a hand of cards, which is all the people that are like, it's all of your family members. That's like who you start with is your hand of family members. But then you will also start getting like other people that are in your social circles. And that's a big part of the game is like trying to get better ones throughout the game. And then the event is going to say who can go to that. So like the afternoon tea might say like 3 ladies can, and it must be 3 ladies. So I must currently in my hand have 3 that I can use to go to this afternoon tea. So you kind of have to like meet all the conditions of I can do this. I have what I need to staff it, and I have the things to play. But assuming you can do all that, you then get to get the like rewards that are unique to every person that attended. And so you're going to collect all the rewards on them, and then the event itself will oftentimes have some type of reward there. And so that could be reputation, which is going to be how you kind of move this token around, and every time it gets all the way around, you get to upgrade your reputation by 1, which is really important because there's certain tiles that you can buy them to put them in your estate. But if it's a level 3 tile, you can't host that activity until your reputation 3. It's very funny because it's like, ooh, I got this cabinet of curiosities, but like no one is going to come and see it until I'm actually reputable enough to like have this thing. And then you also, the people like have like you need to have a certain reputation, especially as you start getting the stronger, I forget what they call them, prestige guests. They, will say like, you need a reputation of 5 before you can invite this person to any event, but their rewards are so good. So you want to like try to work your reputation up. So just very interesting. Like that's just like that little dynamic is like unlike anything else I've played. And once you finish hosting it and collecting the rewards, you then, if it's the first time you've done that event, you get to flip it, which kind of like upgrades it and makes it worth more points. And then any of your people that attended go into a discard pile. So you don't have them in your hand anymore. And there's this dynamic of eventually you might have to take a passing turn where you get everything back. But there's only 16 rounds in the game, so you like really don't want to do that often. So there's a little bit of that like strategy. But then you also, the servants that staffed it go into like a waiting. Basically, they have like a turn cooldown. So like next turn, I won't have my maid available because she, So there's a little bit of this like planning ahead and timing with what events you can do. So I found all that very fun as someone who is not particularly drawn to the theme. Like it's fine and fun. I was like, oh, this is like some fun little puzzles to work through. But I was very excited to see that my wife does enjoy it quite a bit. And like, once you kind of figure out how it works, it's not all that complicated, and it doesn't have a lot of like text or things you need to read. Like it's mostly just like iconography. And so I think that, it could very well fill kind of that role of maybe the heavier game that we play together, if that's what we're looking for. But this month we actually got to play it 4-player. So with Mary's sister and her husband, who she also really loves that theme. And so it was fun to just get to play that and kind of share that experience of this, a theme that oftentimes it's the type of theme that like the game doesn't end up being very good. Like sometimes there's certain themes it's like, oh yeah, like I can tell the person was passionate about the theme. Maybe, could have worked a little bit more on the game design. Yeah. But this is one that really hits on both. And it is funny, just the thematic things that come out of like, I'm hosting this thing with these people. And like, this person actually lowers my reputation because they're like, frowned upon in society. And like, why am I talking with them? And there's just a lot of funny, like organic situations of kind of the storytelling that comes through.
Yeah.
It was a little bit of a weird game because they, my sister and brother-in-law, they had like a hard cutoff that they had to leave, and it basically led to us. We were like hyper speeding through the last like 4 rounds, which was a little bit of a downer to not be able to just like casually sit and enjoy. But still had a lot of fun with it, and just like it fills kind of this nice niche I have, because the reality is there are certain people like my wife that love that setting and that theme. And so if someone hits that and they're also someone that, like enjoys board games, this is just going to be a home run for them. And so it's nice to have that in my collection and have it be a game that I also enjoy playing. So
I think I was watching a Shut Up and Sit Down video this last week that was talking about how they love humor in games that come out of the organic things for, like they don't, not as much where it's like actively trying to just force the funny moments, but that it like funny things that come out of it. That's actually another interesting video idea, Ryan. Like top games that I don't know have
organic storytelling moments.
That just are funny moments like as you're playing. And I think it's always cool when the mechanics kind of draw that out and whatnot.
Totally. Yep, I agree.
Okay, here we go. The big
number one.
Big one. This is a classic. This is one that some people think is too much of a classic, but we would not say so. And this was one that got played at the Board Game Social I was talking about. One that you actually compared one of your earlier games to,
in this video.
Foundations of Rome. Ryan, it's almost like he knew. Spoiler. But this is going to go to Ticket to Ride. And Ryan, this was actually right after Sequoia. So you get a little timeline of the thing. And
I can picture it so clearly.
You can picture it, yep. And some more people had shown up. And so now and my wife had actually just shown up as well. And so now we had a one guy who I knew, and he hasn't really played modern board games really. Another couple that was here and hadn't played really modern board games, and then my wife. And so when you're in a situation of people that have not really played much, and where it's like 5 of us, this just was screaming Ticket to Ride. Like, this is just such a great classic to pull out, and it just was a reminder of how well it is as a gateway game to people. We had just a wonderful game of it. 5-player is so much fun. Is
it on the USA map?
Yep. Classic USA map. I mean, the game's very tense. I think that's maybe one thing that maybe I need to be more upfront about that, of like very quickly.
At the full player count, this is going to be a little tight.
Yeah, it gets a little tight, and so but honestly, it just was a delightful play, and the just fun of so many tense moments and people being like, oh, one we're like I think when we all started out, like 4 of us all play our first one in like the same location, and we're just like, oh my gosh, what's about to happen here? And like you were mentioning with Foundations of Rome, I mean, I just love the tension in that game of, you know, analyzing like, okay, like in an ideal world where I'm not getting blocked, I would just I would look at my whole route, just keep drawing cards to fill in,
draw more destinations to even know like what other,
plan everything out and then play. But the problem is people are blocking you. And taking routes. And so you're, in that tension of when is a time where I just need to go and claim because that route's important, avoid getting blocked, versus being maybe more efficient and, all of that. I mean, that's even the whole thing with Wilds. Like the mom sitting next to me, she just every turn it was she was taking Wilds, and
just a single wild.
And whereas like I'm very averse to drawing Wilds, just because I'm like, oh my gosh, that's 1 card to 2. But then sometimes that backfires because you're like drawing off the top, and then you're just wasting all these turns where you could have just gotten the one you needed. And so even that tension I find is really, it just puts a lot of these tensions of, okay, want to be efficient, but I need to play there, and should I draw more destinations now? And I find that all comes together so well, and it was just a really fun, tight game. It's always a great feeling when when talking afterwards, you can clearly tell everyone had a really fun time. One of the guys, I was talking to him the next day at church, and he went and ordered the game, and he was like, that was so much fun. And that is like, I think Ryan and I would both say is like the greatest, as someone who, is trying to ultimately help someone find, we want to play a game that they enjoy. That is the greatest like stamp of approval, is I went home and ordered it immediately.
The only thing better is when they buy it on their phone as they're playing.
Oh, as it's like the game's not even over yet, and they're ordering it. Yeah. So man, Ticket to Ride is just a wonderful staple in the collection. And what's beautiful about it, Ryan, is like sometimes I think gateway games might have a tendency to be less fun for people who have played it a bunch of times.
Yeah.
But I think you would agree, I love a good game of Ticket to Ride.
And like, we've played it a lot. We're talking, we're over 130 some plays of Ticket to Ride, like in-person plays.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's really what I'm looking for in those types of games, because if it's going to be a game I'm going to play a lot, I want to really be enjoying it in addition to it fitting the situation really well.
Yeah, one of the things I actually, and I don't know if you play this way, Ryan, I might do it permanently. So I know we've always done longest route. Do you also play with the bonus for most completed destinations? Because there's another card in there.
Okay, I've only done it if like the map, because there's certain maps that change what the conditions are. But I think normally if I'm playing USA, I'm just doing longest route.
Because I only have USA.
Interesting.
And there's another bonus that is similar to longest route, but it gives you a bonus for whoever's completed the most destination cards, which I was thinking about it. I really like that, because probably my biggest complaint is I feel like you want the big long routes. You just want the big long ones, and it can be really hard to win if you just got a bunch of these little ones. But I almost think that kind of helps the completing a lot of little ones route. So I was thinking about it. We played with it, and I actually really like it. I think it might be something that I do every time going forward now, is have both of those. I don't even know if that's what the rules say, but I kind of like it. It's I mean, who really cares what the rule says? If you like it, go and do it.
Do what you want.
So I might be doing that going forward. But just a classic one. Pretty much everyone should own Ticket to Ride.
Yep, great game.
Thank you.
My number one is one of the last games I would introduce to somebody new to board gaming. This is way, way on the other side of the complexity scale. But it is one that I think I was finally able to try at kind of its ideal situation, which is 3 players, and like 3 players that this is like our type of game. This is Too Many Bones. And up to this point, I'd only played it 2-player. I actually played it solo once, 2-handed. Adding in a 3rd player is really, really nice. Like just the dynamics, because like the game revolves a lot around this 4x4, tactical combat puzzle that you do in, certain scenario or different days, or a lot of them are going to have you do these battles. And having 3 of you just makes the dynamics a little more interesting. And it also increases like what you're fighting, because you always calculate like what the baddie points is or whatever. And that's always going to be like the number of players times the current day. And then there's like some adjustment to it. But what having 3 players means is you hit a higher number quicker. And so whatever that number is, you're always like making change from the baddies come in 1 point, 5 point, and 20 point. So like if you're at 17 baddie points, you're going to do 5, 5, 5, and then 2 1. So it's just like, making change with coins. And so what's fun with 3 players is you're actually getting more up into those higher, monsters, and even hitting into the 20-point ones or having multiple 5-point ones. And that makes the puzzle more interesting, because a lot of what makes it interesting is which enemies come out and how their abilities interplay with yours and how that all goes. So I think that was just like really great. You have a little bit more breadth in like your skill sets across. Like we kind of had the more healing character, but we also had like a very attacking and then like a ranged one, so we can kind of work together.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was all very fun, and it was just a fun session of it. I love seeing kind of how the game plays with the system of tyrants. So you always select a tyrant that's ultimately the boss you're trying to beat at the end, but you also, for that tyrant, shuffle in any special encounters they have for them in the encounter deck. And a lot of tyrants just have 1. I think this one, we were facing this dragon guy that had 2. But it is just interesting how those change things, because he had this thing like in the final fight with him where he like summons these orbs, like if he rolls a certain thing. And so these like orbs come out on the map that have health, and as long as they're there, every time you roll any bones, you get hurt. So it's just like hurting us if we leave it there. So you have to kind of decide, like, do we try to knock out this orb, but we're also trying to fight him and beat him? Well, we earlier got a scenario that we like had his thing and had to do this special thing. And because we won it, we actually like weakened his ability so that like whenever he created orbs, they came out with less health. So I thought that was just kind of cool how like there's this scenario that may or may not come up, but it's tied thematically into what we're doing with the tyrant. And then it actually like the results in it played into what that final battle ended up looking like.
That is cool.
So that was very cool. I also like, there's not a lot of room for error in this game, in that usually it's like, okay, you have 10 days to get enough progress, but you need to get to fight the boss, but you need 8 progress. And like, it's usually a progress per day if you're successful. So if you can fail like 1 or maybe 2 days, but other than that, you like need to be succeeding. And we got to the point where we needed to win the current one, and then we would have the last round to fight the boss. And that second to last one started out horribly. One of our Gearwalks died like right away, and it was just like, oh my gosh, there's just no way. But somehow it was me, and I had like a really attacking guy, and the other guy that was left had a kind of more healing person, and we were able to kind of just stay alive long enough that we actually pulled it off, and then got to do the final battle, which we ended up winning. So it was fun. We always talk about how it's fun in cooperative games to lose all hope and then have it revived through amazing circumstances.
Yes.
So yeah, it is. I would say now, after playing it as many times as I had, which is 4, it's like securely, I really, really enjoy it, and definitely see it fitting. It's not an easy one to get to the table. Like, there's going to be certain people I play it with. It's in kind of a similar niche as Mage Knight, of big, long game, kind of complex. But yeah, it makes me want to get some of the more content for it. There's more Gearwalks you can get. I want to get the expansion that adds a bunch of scenarios, because I just love the idea of there being more variety in what can come up.
You know what's interesting?
This was an easy one. The other 2 picks for this month were like, oh, what do I do here? This was like a lock for number 1.
That's awesome. It's interesting you say that it was actually better with 3 players, because Mage Knight typically we play the cooperative mode of it. But we like it actually best probably at 2 players, Just because the length and so that's why I was curious is you didn't feel like the length it was adding a lot, like
it was definitely longer, but the thing is, whereas in Mage Knight it's longer, but you're still kind of all doing your own thing.
Yeah,
for the most part, most of
this
Mage
one
Knight,
you're always
every battle you're all in there together, and it's making those battles more interesting. And you're getting just having 3 Gearwalks versus 2 is just more variety in kind of what you have in play.
Yeah.
That's cool. I think it is very good at 2 as well, but I think 3 might, whereas 4 you'd start, it would be getting more interesting, but almost too complex with like how much is going on in a given battle.
Right.
And it also would just be so long.
Yeah.
It would have to be really the right situation for me to want to try that.
That whole change system with monsters is very fascinating to me, because
I love it. Because there's such a difference between, like, if you hit 14, that's 2 5s and 4 1s. Suddenly you're fighting a battle that's like flooded. But if you hit one more, or even just at the beginning of a game, like 4 1s versus fighting a single 5 is such a different feel.
Yeah.
And then I love the fact that those baddie piles are dictated by the tyrant. So the tyrant says, like, you're using the dragon ones and these ones. So it's like thematically to the feel of each tyrant. So I think that's really clever. It's a bit of a bear the first times you're playing, because every enemy has keywords and abilities and things, and there's an entire double-sided reference sheet, and so you're having to look up everything. But it is one of those games that as you play it more, it's like, oh yeah, I remember what hardy means, I remember what compound means. Like, it's just like you start to not have to look for everything. But such a tactically rich game, and then it's tactically rich with dice, and like it is fun to just roll dice and like have that randomness. I love the card play in Mage Knight, but it's fun to have one that's a little bit more, brings the excitement of dice into a game like that.
Well, it always feels awesome. If the people didn't know, this was my gift to Ryan for Christmas.
Christmas. Yeah, what did I get you for Christmas?
Those right.
Have you already sold what I got you for Christmas?
I had you. Yeah, right.
Yeah, we drew each other in our.
Wait,
we do like a sibling gift exchange.
Why am I for?
What did I get you?
Why am I? Oh, Earth. You got
Earth. Me Earth. That one's gone pretty.
That one's been really good. Yeah. No, that's awesome, because I know our first play of Too Many Bones was not the best example of it.
It was a little rough.
I blame Ryan. He didn't.
We tried to squeeze it in the last day before that you were going to be here. I wasn't really prepared to teach it. We didn't know yet that there's like really good videos online for like learning your gear walk. Like that would have gone a long way if we had just watched those 2 videos.
Yeah. Well, very, very nice. Ryan with the lock for his number 1. Hopefully your 2 and 3 next month can be a little more less bad.
They were good.
But regardless, good games, and those are our top 3 board game plays of April 2024. Hey, thanks for watching. Like we mentioned, we've got links to all of these delightful games down below. If you want to check them out for yourself, the links also support our channel, so we greatly appreciate that. And also, we've got a whole playlist here of all of our top board games of the month that we've been making throughout the year, so you can check that out. But we will see you in the next one.